Should be live. Yeah.
Good night to the
So we
Belizean people at home and abroad. Again, tonight we are dealing with our 51st edition of Belizean Affair. Tonight we want to bring you again another educational program in which we discuss major issues that are happening in Belize. With that said, let me go straight to our chairman, Mr. Roody, for his reading.
Thank you, Gregory. And it's again, well said. And it's always a pleasure to be in your company and Leonard company. We bring truth to the nation, truth to the people, right? And we are about people and nation. And I want to thank you for that warm introductory there. Um, I'll go straight to, as you know, like Greg says, we start off with a reading. I want to continue on Timothy chapter 2, 1 to 10 says, "You then, my children, be strengthened by the grace that is in Jesus Christ, and what you have heard from me in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to faithful men who will be able to teach others also. Share in suffering as a good soldier of Jesus Christ. No soldier gets entangled in civilians' pursuit, since his aim is to please the one who enlisted him. An athlete is not crowned unless he competes according to the rules. It is the hard-working farmer who ought to have the first share in the crop. Think over what I say, for the Lord will give you understanding in everything. Remember Jesus Christ, risen from the dead, the offspring of David, as, as preached in my gospel, for which I am suffering, bound with chains as a criminal. But the word of God is not bound. Therefore, I endure everything for the sake of the elect, that they also may obtain the salvation that is in Christ Jesus with eternal glory. That's my reading from Timothy. Leonard, thank you.
yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Wade. Uh, to continue our program, we'd like to ask that we participate in a small prayer. Hopefully, I won't make it a long prayer, and then we can just move on to the rest of the program. Thank you very much. Divine loving Father, we thank you for this privilege to come before thy presence once more. We pray that thou mayest hear our petitions, that thou mayest listen to our supplications, that thou mayest grant needs of our minds, our heart, our desires, even our most secret thoughts. Please continue to guide us and protect us. Help us as we present this program that we may make a proper presentation and that the people may be able to benefit from some of the virtues that thou hast bestowed us with. Be with us, guide us, protect us, bless our family members, friends, and loved ones, our country of Belize, people and leadership, and the rest of humanity. Be with us now and always. We pray for Christ's sake. Amen.
Amen, amen. I thank you for that, Mr. Brackett. Mr. Chairman,
Welcome, sir.
with your permission, the Constitution is one of the hottest topics that is being discussed around in public and at home and abroad. This past Sunday, I had the opportunity to tune in to a Sunday morning service that was being broadcast by the Guadalupe Media, and I think it was Channel 92. I applaud the minister who spoke to the congregation, and he was so offended that our present government is trying to take the God out of our Constitution. I don't know, Mr. Chairman, if you had seen the service, maybe you had, but I would like to hear you on that, sir, because, as he rightfully said, the Constitution is being attacked by demons, and we need to stand up and defend our Constitution because, in his words, he sees nothing wrong with the present Constitution. I thank you for that, Mr. Chairman.
So very true, Gregory. So right on that. I have tuned into that you know service. As Belizeans, most of us are God fearing people. That's the way most of us have been brought up. Um, you know, it was surprising though that I tuned into this Guadalupe media and the service that was it was out in San Pedro. And I listened to that preacher there, Gregory and Leonard. I listened to that preacher, and in the middle of his sermon, he mentioned we have a problem in Belize. And like you rightfully says, it says that Greg, it says the Constitution of Belize is being attacked. And you rightfully said, Greg, that he said that he sees nothing wrong with the present Constitution, and that Belize is going down the wrong path. And he mentioned that, it's a sad day. And he mentioned about, it seems that what they want to do also is take out God out of the Constitution. And the whole thing that the Constitution is built around the supremacy of God. So I listened to that sermon, and it really touched home because that's something that we have been talking about for over a year now. Those who had followed us know that, maybe a little more than a little more than a year, we have been talking about the attack on the Constitution and the present situation of the Briceño administration and as to their agenda, as to how we see it. We don't know how other people see it, but as in the eyes of, in our eyes, this is the road we see that they are going down, that they want to change the Constitution and they want to make Belize into a republic based on the little things that they tell on themselves. They want to know if you want to get rid of the governor general, and if you would want to see a republic Belize, right? But anyway, while we are on the church, because that message that you talked about, Greg, came from the church, the Catholic Church. So where does that leave us? Is that the only mission that seeing the wrong that is perpetrating on our country and the assault on the Constitution? Now, what happened to the other churches? You don't think maybe by now they would have said something or give some input, or don't you think that it should be of concern to their congregation, or to even the pastor, of based on what is going on? Or maybe they're not in tune of what's going on. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Mr. Weir, can I read from the Constitution exactly the words that you just mentioned, so that people can hear it for themselves? That not only that you have said it just now, but where it came from, and what is it that these guys are trying to tamper with. Can I just read a little part for you before you continue?
Go ahead, Leonard.
As a support, The first part of our preamble, section A, or paragraph A, the first sentence in that preamble and in our constitution says as follows: affirm. Okay, let me read there's a little part that comes before that. No, whereas the people of Belize, paragraph A says, affirm that the nation of Belize shall be founded upon principles which acknowledges the supremacy of God. I'll read that part over for emphasis. Whereas the people of Belize affirm that the nation of Belize shall be founded upon principles which acknowledges the supremacy of God, faith in human rights and fundamental freedoms, that positions and the position of the family in a society of free men and free institutions, the dignity of the human person and the equal and inalienable rights and inalienable rights with which all members of the human family are created by the, are endowed by their creator. So,
Thank you
if
for that,
somebody is
Mr.
gonna
Brackett.
if somebody is going to
Thank
assault
you.
if somebody is going to assault the first part of our constitution, that means that they are just about not interested in having any respect for any other part thereafter. I'll yield back again to Mr. Wade so he can finish up his.
So
Yes, yes. Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
so I say this because it's a sad day to see that the church, one of the church that I hear, maybe there are others, guys, maybe there are others, but what I've it's a sad day to see that one of the church now is being openly speaking about it.
Finally.
So
Right.
my point is that what happened to the other denominations? Aren't
Mhm.
these aren't that not matter of importance? Aren't that not matter that directly affects us? Or are that not a issue that should be talked about? I can't see why this issue is not broadened, except from us, that we've been talking, like I say, over the past year, we've been talking about this same issue, right? And we are just waiting for it to come to a head, right? But I watched the men of God, right? We had one in the house, Mr. Rock.
Mhm.
To me, in my personal opinion, he was just a figurehead for the UDP, because everything that is tabled, that pastor agreed on. You could go back and do the research on what I'm saying, right? When it was time for him to vote. And I call on Mr. Pastor, is it I would say Pastor Bengoshe or
You're correct.
Pastor Bengoshe, take a stern stand, and stand up for righteous,
Do
for
he needs to do his job. That's what he's supposed to be there for, to
plain and simple,
represent
do his
that,
job.
that
And
group.
what I would like to see, guys, right? And I'll pass it over. I would like to see the churches get more involved in this issue that is directly affecting and will affect our Belizean people.
Mhm.
Get more involved. And I pass it over to Leonard on the
Thank you
stage.
very much, Mr. Wade. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Um, this issue is a burning issue for me personally because, first and foremost, I consider myself to be a Christian, a follower of Christ, and a servant of God, the God that all of us as Christians ascribe to. So to me, it's like a finger up my nose that these people are attempting to deal with. And as I read just now in support of Mr. Wade, or chairman's first point, that the matter is specifically delineated in our constitution. That is that our country, let me read it again, please. I'll take the opportunity to read it again, because it says, whereas the people of Belize affirm that the nation of Belize shall be founded upon principles which acknowledges the supremacy of God. Why would anyone want to take the supremacy of God out of our lifestyle? Is our country not in enough of a crazy scenario as it is right now, even without having taken this out of our constitution? I remember when I used to go to school as a kid, they used to let us pray. They used to let us pray in the morning when we go to school. On Friday, they used to have like maybe a special prayer or a special gathering. Sometimes we'd go to maybe a church or just for invocation or whatever. But the general idea is that from I was a little kid, we used to go to harvest. We used to walk up and carry a little tray of food and thing, and I used to enjoy going to harvest, and you know that kind of attitude and Christian imbued thoughts gives us something that is bigger than life. To point our lifestyle towards, to try and achieve or attain. Of course, the non-Christians have their one way of serving whom they classify or think of as their God. Because you have the Hindus, you have the Muslims, you have, that I'm aware of based on my religious studies, there's more than 1,000 different denominations and different creeds or religions throughout this world. Some of them are acknowledged as being organized religions. Others are acknowledged as just being sects or groups, or they have all different kind of names for them. And especially the big organized religions, look at the small the small little organized religions, and they call them, by names that are demeaning or condescending, right? Because they're not big and powerful. But at the end of the day, I'll tell you this, from another part of my own personal studies in philosophy and anthropology, I have found out that human beings have a tendency, some of us, not us, but some of them, or some human beings have a tendency to say, there is no God, and therefore they don't believe in any God. But as soon as some catastrophe or disaster strikes them, the first thing they holler, oh my God! It's just an inflection. They try to deny that there's a God in the presence of their friends and other people that they're around, because they want to go on with this presumption that they have no one to be accountable to, or that they're not beholden to any God. Therefore, they are free to be as much of a sinner as they wish to be, right? So by not acknowledging that there's a supreme being, it means that it doesn't exist. Whether we like it or not, this world was here before we. This solar system was here before we. Our galaxy that we live in, the Milky Way, was here before we. And all the other trillions, billions and trillions of other galaxies out there that people are now finding out exist. None of us as human beings put 1 ounce of energy to bring about any of these things that I just spoke about just now. And as human beings, we are on this little marble that we call the earth, billions of us, right? and there's still no space for billions more of us. So imagine that we are denying that there's the existence of any other universe out there, and we are going back into the olden days to say, okay, well, the earth is flat, and we better be careful that we don't drop off the edge. I mean, how ludicrous in today's 2023 era that people still believe that we human beings are the supreme entity and most knowledgeable entity and the greatest thing that ever happened in this universe. And we had not 1 ounce of energy to contribute to bring the universe about. So much for the doubters or those who claim that there is no God. But to say that they have the right to take out of our constitution what we decided that we wanted to have in our constitution means that they're spitting in our face. They're denying us our rights while they're hoping that we can use our constitution to grant them their rights. How preposterous. How fair is it? But let me leave that part alone because I think I'm getting into the esoteric part of religious matters, and that's not what this particular program is here about tonight. The program is actually focusing on the fact that until now, we get a religious representation from the gentleman that we spoke about just now in Amberguski at the church, clamoring and bringing it to the attention of his people at church, his audience, and hopefully beyond that audience, because I'm not a part of the audience, but it reached me and many others, and I'm as concerned as he is. That is to say, why would our government entertain the idea of having someone as Mr. Orozco, for example, to be on our Constitution Reform Commission advocating taking out God out of our Constitution, when in fact that very same Constitution was used to find and validate that he had a right. Why does he want to destroy our Constitution or eviscerate or change our Constitution that allowed him and gave him the privilege to exercise his personal rights? That's more than fair. He should be glad his rights was recognized, because the Constitution also speaks to the fact that the morality of the society must be adhered to. And I'm damn well sure that the morality of our society was not adhered to when they put in Section 54. Or was it 51? When they
54.
modified it. Yeah. When they
Section
modified it.
54.
Yeah. So, for all intents and purposes, granting or authorizing that right by the community doesn't mean that because their right was granted and accepted or acknowledged, that they should put themselves in an indefensible position to try and deny anybody else their rights. They of themselves should be willing and more than anybody else want to have other people's rights respected. But I'm glad, like I said, that this gentleman, this father at the church, decided to speak up. And I'm aggrieved of the fact that not too many others have been speaking up on this matter, because this matter concerns all the parishioner members then in those churches, not just the fathers and the ministers or whoever, the preachers and whatever else, not or the organization per se. It's a matter of them speaking up on behalf of how the Constitution is being hauled and pulled to the detriment of their parishioners. And I believe that more people should be speaking up. The Wesley, the Church, the Catholics, St. John's, everybody should be speaking up. When you see evil trying to take over your society and no good people speaks up or stand up or try to defend the society's well-being, then those individuals in the society then at that point are just as complicit in aiding and abetting or allowing evil to prevail. So I would like to see other organizations step to the plate and defend our constitution, because that's what we are about on this particular platform. From the start of this platform, we have been hawking and hollering and trying to get people to pay attention to what's going on with our constitution. But it can't be that we are the only defenders of our constitution while our whole government and the majority of the people in the country are indifferent or could care less until after the government has gotten its changes and done what it wants, for them to wake up and realize that their rights are then being violated under the new constitution, because the new constitution authorizes additional power to the government that the government can use to break their head with. If we don't defend what we have, we should not stand up and complain about what we don't have when it comes to us. That's my input for right now, Mr. Chairman.
Well said, Mr. Brackett. Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Go ahead, Gregory.
Mr. Chairman, as the pastor rightfully says, our constitution is built on the pillars of our heavenly creator. And in Belize, we are living in a diverse culture with many different creeds, but they still rightfully have the God that they serve. But if you have migrated to Belize and you have become a Belizean, then you must follow the law of the land, which gives justice. The Constitution is the law of this country. And our forefathers wrote that so that we can have democracy. Our forefathers wrote that so that demons cannot destroy what we, the Belizean people, should preserve. I have mentioned on this platform that the government of Belize is trying to separate state from church, and they are gradually doing it. And I find that the churches in our country has a representative in Pastor Bengushe who is not stepping up to the plate to defend it. And I say this because it was that simple for the churches not to step up and protect it Good Friday, which is a holy day that is observed worldwide. They allowed the government to pass an amendment on the liquor law. And it was okay to sell alcohol on a sacred day. Then the churches, again, under his leadership, allowed the government, when there should have been a referendum on the marijuana bill, to pass an amendment to say if they ever reach to that, then they would have the referendum. The government has no intention of trying to do that. As you can see, what has happened with Oceania. Because the intent of the government is to rewrite our constitution in 18 months. And if successful, Belize will not have another general election. And I hope people are aware at home and abroad of this. So when they pass into law the People's Constitution Act, and they put into law that the people in the diaspora must be involved because they want to hear their opinion, I want the people in the diaspora, including those who are third-party platform, to understand what you should be looking out for is your constitutional right to vote in a referendum, an election that under the 7th Amendment you are banned from being doing.
Mm-hmm.
That should be your concern, not trying to assist the government in trying to replace
Sorry.
a constitution that has been there since 1981 with all fundamental rights that they are trying to teach, that is enshrined in the preamble
Mm-hmm.
from 1981 to present for 42 years. They are trying to get rid of. The government of Belize has no respect for the Constitution. As you can see in our Monday night show, what was said by the Minister of Police, how he is classifying the citizen of Belize and putting some in a higher bracket than others, and he must pass law to protect them, even though you heard what the Constitution said. Every individual,
Mm-hmm.
every citizen in this country
Equal
should
under the law.
have equal protection under the law.
Mm-hmm.
We find again the government attacking the Constitution when we have under Section 20 judicial review, when we have cases that are tailored in the High Court, and when a decision is passed down, as in the BSI case, as in this case that just was for the gangbangers, that they couldn't find them guilty of being a gang member. The government seeks to appeal this decision. And I will be the first to say this. The reason why the government wants to appeal the decision when they found these young men not guilty of being a gang member is because it becomes a precedent and it will bar them from having bogus state of emergency. It
Mm-hmm.
will stop them from going around and picking up these young men as gang members without proof.
We
And
advised them about that. Uh,
this is
yeah,
what,
we advised them about that, and they didn't follow
yes,
through.
and we have mentioned it. This is what they are after. Because you know what this is telling us, the people at home and abroad? They do not have an answer for crime. And this was their only weapon, to treat these young men as slaves, to treat these young men as though this government is trafficking, moving these young men from their home to the prison, back and forth, you know, in violation of their constitutional right. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield to you.
You couldn't have said it better, my brother. You know, I don't know what it will take, guys, for our people to be awakened, to see the road that we are going down, right? To see the things that our leaders are doing. Is it not that they do not or they cannot comprehend right from wrong? Or is it that they just don't know? Or is it that they just don't care? Right? But that's very, very, very bad to be in society, to be living in this land. When I know that every ills that happen in this country, we are affected directly affected. What is it that is keeping our people, so dormant, right? I don't mean it in a negative way, but I mean we are failing ourselves. We are failing our children, right? We are failing our grandchildren to be living in this kind of mayhem. That's my terminology. mayhem by past and present elected leaders who has no regards for our constitution, who, in my view, has no love for country nor people, all about power and personal greed. That's how I see these people. I call in on the crime show this morning and voice my opinion, my concern. And then you have on the same issue, because the issue, it was talked about this morning, and I had also voiced my opinion. Then you have a elected official, a minister, going to say that we need a new identity, right? Then you have some ministers come and they want to separate from the crown, right? Do these people think this thing true? But if you separate from the crown, where does that leave us? Who got us the way we are right now? Who got the economy the way it is right now in terms of outside participation, right? So I had us to, to call out the ills this morning, and right after they didn't come back. They went on commercial and didn't come back to, debate on what I have talked about, right? But anyway, that's all right. That's for them to live with that, right? Because they know what they're doing, what they're coming from, what they get paid to do, and their mission and their, how you call the word go, Greg and Leonard, their assignment.
Assignment. They understand the
Right?
assignment.
Exactly. So my thing is that, I call on in respect to this this topic that we are on, again, I call on the churches to be more vocal on this issue, at least if not for the pastor's sake, for their congregation's sake, right? So, for them to be more involved. And I call on the pastor, Mr. Bengushe, I'm saying it right? He's a pastor that's in the Senate. This what the church senator then. That's his title, right?
Yes, sir.
The church senator to stop and really think what the government of the day is doing with our constitution. Take a broad look at that, Mr. Church Senator, and let's see where you stand. Let's hear you get up in the house and voice. Get up in the house where you have that privilege. Voice to the nation and the world how you feel about this whole issue. My hat goes off to that pastor on Sunday's sermon. May God continue to guide him and protect him, right? And give him the energy to speak out, right? And again, I wish that more people would follow, more churches would follow, and then maybe it will be considered by Mr. Briceño and his minions, right? Who has their agenda, right?
Mr. Chairman,
they will take a hard look on what they are doing. And in terms, like you said, Greg, they do not want to see a next general election. Maybe then when the churches start speaking out, they will defer from that.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Go ahead, Greg.
If people of Belize looking at home and abroad, living at home and abroad, look and see what democracy look like in Guatemala as we speak, I may not like their terminology because I believe Belize no es de Guatemala, but when it comes to corruption and it comes to democracy, the people of Guatemala is united to have democracy. Once an election is over, the people united. And as I'm speaking, there are mass rioting going on because the past government does not want to yield to the incoming government. And you know why? Because the past government is a corrupted government, and they know the incoming government had run on corruption. So they know what will happen. And this is what is happening in our Belize. That is
Exactly.
why UNCAC is not fully implemented,
Exactly.
because it will be retro what?
Active.
Retroactive.
So
With
right
that, I
there.
yield to Mr. Brackett.
Go ahead, Leonard.
I would like to believe that somewhere or another, our people will wake up one day from the slumber that they're in, and particularly our leaders, such as, for example, the union leaders, the Chamber of Commerce, and all the others, as a matter of fact. It can't be that the government is having or getting a pass on eviscerating or destroying the Constitution that they themselves swore to uphold, and nobody is taking them to task for it, and or at least querying as to why is it that they're doing what they're doing or attempting to do what they're attempting to do. Is it possible that the people are so docile and so indifferent, both people in power as well as just the average citizen, that they would allow to happen what is about to happen or what is going on right now, believing that somehow betterment will be had as a result? I'm definitely sure that that's not the case. People in Belize know that the country is in a messed up situation, and we need to have some solution to those problems. But they're hoping that somebody will dream those solutions and bring them about without them having to participate or putting any effort to make it come about. And while I would say that they can help in that process by virtue of how they exercise their freedom or choice or right to vote, by voting for people who will bring about those changes, rather than people who have already shown a predisposition to not want to have anything to do with any changes and just keep on repeating the same cycle over and over. No care what party come in a power in Belize so far, from independence till now, none of them have been any different than the previous one before, other than to say if there's a difference, it's a difference of trying to be worse than the one before them. But none of them try to solve the problems that the country have or that the people need to have solved or resolved for the betterment of the society in the country. The present government that we have are a bunch of kleptocrats, hyenas, vultures, and you know they have no interest in governing. They're just sitting on the powers and making deals with individuals on the side so that they can have a little side gig and a little some economic benefits. They are not managing as people who are interested in making a country great or better than it is when they first took office. From the time this present PUP government got into power, in fact, from the time they won the election, they start showing a predisposition to going back to their old selves. When in fact, during the election time, they were telling us, no, they have changed. They learned their mistake. They were out of power for so long, 3 cycles. They really want to get back in power to show that they were better than what they did the last time. And within a few days' time after the election, their own party members them were complaining about the direction that the new government was heading into. And from then till now, there's over at least 2 dozen different issues that they are culpable of and or have done wrong, to which at least a few of them should be in jail for. But they won't prosecute themselves. The Attorney General that we had before this last one here now shows, instead of prosecuting them guys for their one wrongdoing, she decided to leave office. The present Attorney General we have right now apparently learned something from that experience and also learned his assignment, and is spending his time in trying to bamboozle people into believing that because he, as a learned person, is bamboozling them and they're not supposed to know any difference or know better, that everything should be all right. When in fact, he is aiding and abetting the destruction of our society. He knows damn well that what he was saying the other day as regards to this referendum issue was a conflation on his part and trying to find or search for words to answer the hard question that Jules was asking, that he didn't have the answers for, and was pretending that Jules was offending him for asking him hard questions. It's not because he doesn't know better or is capable of better. He understands, apparently, his assignment. And the assignment is not one that that position should be advocating for. That position as Attorney General should be advocating about the best interests and legal interests of the country. He's not Mr. Briceño's attorney. He's the Attorney General on behalf of the country. And the sooner he gets that in his head, I think the better off he's going to be. Otherwise, I will constantly keep cutting his scalp and making an effort to get that information in his skull. He is not Mr. Briceño's attorney. If he wants to be Mr. Briceño's personal or private attorney, haul his butt out of governance and go and work for Mr. Briceño as his personal attorney. But so long as he's going to be occupying that position as Attorney General of the country, he needs to be looking after the legal affairs of the country. So likewise, for the first time, I'm going to direct my comments to the DPP. I recall some 50-odd years ago when we had a gentleman by the name of Mr. Pereira. I don't know who all remember him. That gentleman wrote to me and asked if I could help them with a situation that was existing at the time. And I did volunteer my assistance to help him, but not in the way that he was asking for the help. I helped them, but I also helped them to realize that they, as members of the government at the time, and in his position as a DPP, he should not be compromising his position on behalf of a government official who, at the time, was playing shenanigans fast and loose with the stability and well-being of the country. So he cannot be appeared to want to put pressure on some people while making excuses for the real criminals who are committing crimes under the color of law. So for that purpose, now I'm making this comment to the President DPP. The position of the DPP is to prosecute, whether it be the Prime Minister or any other minister or any other civilians or any other government employee, when they are found in transgressions of the laws of the country. It should not have to take a private citizen to take out a suit against a government official or any other person that works for the government in order to have them do what they're commanded to do according to the Constitution. The DPP should step in the breach and make sure that enough pressure is brought to bear on some of these hyenas and junkers and vultures, or one and the same, who are running around the country, cutting deals and subordinating the powers of our country, as particularly in regards to the port business, the Portugal port business. Or DPP, along with the Attorney General, have enough constitutional muster and powers to be able to rectify and clarify that matter. But because they give a pass to the Prime Minister and the other henchmen them in the cabal of the cabinet, they are now taking one other stab at this Portugal business to try and perfect it, claiming that they're not giving the new Portugal undertaking any more than was given to any of the other previous port, like for example the Fine Sand port, or maybe the other port down south, because they got certain things, and any other people that want to come and create ports now in our country will have to meet certain rules, but will be entitled to some of the things that they are now giving to this new agreement with the new Portugal. These legal minds, as I mentioned just now, the Attorney General and the DPP, needs to look into the criminal behavior of our ministers, including the Minister of Finance and the head of cabinet, for that matter of fact. Now, if we had, for example, as was mentioned just now, if we had UNCAC in place, these individuals will be trembling in their boots because they would know that they can be touched. There can be consequences to their conduct. But because it will take them to bring UNCAC into place, and they refuse to bring it into place, they feel like they're immune and above the fray. I beg to differ. Because whether they know it or not, UNCAC is coming to Belize, and a lot of them are going to be surprised, and a lot of them are going to be caught with their pants down, and a lot of them are going to end up being in jail, and their possessions that they have deprived the society and the country of will be taken back. It may not be today or tomorrow, but it's coming. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Leonard. It's a shame, guys, to see how these guys get up in the house, and every law they pass is just to give them more power and more protection.
Mm-hmm.
Them. They haven't done anything, passed any law that will benefit the poor and less fortunate in this country. At least I haven't seen any or heard of any. Maybe I'm wrong.
Mr. Musa, Mr. Karim, he was just crying for additional protection.
See, and you see how he went about doing that? Who he used and what was his words?
Mm-hmm.
Why couldn't he come and say, well, we the ministers, we the PUP ministers want no protection? Why couldn't he have said that? But he didn't. But
they don't have the strength of character.
But that is exactly what they want, right, Greg?
That is correct.
That's exactly what they want.
Mr. Chairman, it is a part of authoritarian rule,
mm-hmm.
which becomes silencing the population. If you have a government who is seeking constitution reform, and you have people who will stand up against it, the people who is against it has to be careful of what they say about it or what they say to these ministers. Because with that new law, you can end up for 5 years in the system. Now, as my cousin rightfully said, and I will point it out, I had said before that the Portugal Agreement was unconstitutional
mm-hmm.
before they even sent it out to go and get a legal opinion. And I will tell you now that this legislation that they are trying to pass in the House, that we had a look at, is
Not
also
even,
unconstitutional. And I will tell you why it's unconstitutional right now. Because our present constitution bars any government from putting a threshold and open tenure. It means that anybody who wants to come and do business in our country can come and present. But you cannot put a threshold of $250,000. That is unconstitutional. Go ahead, Mr. Brackett.
to back you up on that point, not only is our constitution demanding that the government play by a rule of fairness, but in our foreign trade and international rule of business conduct, it requires, as you had pointed out on one instance, Greg, that the British and Belize made treaties for business operations, that Belizeans would go and develop business in the UK and Ireland, and they can come here and develop business, which is the international rules under which Mr. Ashcroft operates and keep on taking advantage of our country. But we don't have the opportunity or the economic means by which we can go and do business over there. So when our government is stipulating these things and putting these things into practice or into position as if they were valid laws, they're contravening our very constitution and international law at that, which exposes our country again to further lawsuits. And I don't know when they're going to stop repeating this cycle of putting our country in positions where we end up having to find money to pay for these lawsuits, and we cannot manage the budget to provide enough funds to sponsor the poverty alleviation programs and the housing programs and schools and other things that we need in the country. Because the squandering in the money, like you said, Gregory, Mr. Ashcroft could just continue suing us on this particular business and sit back and take $100+ million. That $100+ million, you know what all that could have done for we country and for we poor people? Just because we government are a bunch of knuckleheads. And even more than just being knuckleheads, then damn chance because some of them know exactly what's going on. Not because they didn't learn it on their own. They know because we have been telling them ahead of time.
Again,
be able to tell them what they're supposed to know.
Again, let me point it out to you, because the past administration had tried to get rid of the Referendum Act, and the present administration is doing the same thing because he don't want the people to come at them under national security. That is why he keep amending any issues that has to do with referendum. You see, with this agreement that he wants to tailor in the House for Puerto Rico with a threshold, they know it is unconstitutional. But if the people come to them with under national security, they will say that the People Constitution Act also carries a referendum act, and they will try to use that unconstitutional amendment to bar a referendum, as they are doing with Oceania. When the People Constitution Act has nothing to do with the Referendum Act. The People Constitution Act, in fact, is non-binding. It has not been passed into law yet. And all it was set out for is to
get information.
Correct. But GOB is sneaky. The GOB is sneaky. That is why they sneak Section 5 Section 522 into it to have the power to say
That's
the
illegitimate.
House will decide.
Yeah,
You
but
know?
that was, like I said, it's a shell game, and it was an illegitimate attempt at power grab, because they claim that the People's Constitution Commission was actually working its way through and gathering information, and therefore the government can't function. Is that what the Prime Minister said? He
Pretty
cannot
much.
obey the laws.
Wait,
Obey the laws.
let me stop you there for a second, because it come back to what I was saying all along
Man.
when this was coming about. How long did I say it took the Bahamas to do theirs? 8 years.
Mhm.
8 years. But they want to do it in 18 months. What is the rush? The rush is they know going to a general election, they will not get a second chance.
They messed
Period.
up big time. They messed up big time. But I was saying,
And that is why they are doing what? Bastardization of our constitution right in front of our eyes. If you notice, Section 20, which give judicial review, they don't want to deal with that. They not even respect the verdict passed down by the judges in the court. As you see, I mentioned earlier with the main brothers as being a member of a gang, they want to appeal it because they do not have the answer for crime. They do not have the answer for external and internal policies. The government external policy is dealing with foreign investors and dealing, as you see, the foreign minister. Nothing to do with external under the foreign minister, but they can wheel and deal with bringing in a terrorist. They can wheel and deal with affairs that is happening in Haiti, which we should do, but first deal with your immediate external policy.
Greg,
and we are failing that.
Do you know that we're going to get some money in Belize for that undertaking as well?
Of course. Of course.
No, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Can I go back to my point though, Greg?
Before you do that, because I want that point you're about to pass carries on into what I'm about to say. The world is changing when you watch what is happening in Gaza. The world is changing when you watch Haiti.
Greg,
the world has.
To the chairman. We made a promise to the chairman, and I think we need to keep it because.
Right.
No, we have. I won't take that much. 10
right.
minutes most, so go ahead, Greg.
Okay.
Yeah,
the world is changing. The white supremacy is falling, and black power is rising. The white man is caught up in a position where they cannot reap and pilgrimage the land no more. They have been run out of Africa. So there is no more equity from Africa.
Yeah, call you back later. Thank you.
There's no more equity to have in Africa. So you see what they're doing, and I said it, they will come in Latin America and the Caribbean. And like I said, you saw what happened. BRICS is alive and living well. You saw what Saudi Arabia and Venezuela are doing with their oil. Now you know where they're at. U.S. capital is coming to Belize. Right in Latin and the Caribbean, Latin America and the Caribbean. So when I say something, I'm not just saying it for saying its sake. You have to watch the mythology. We are living in an economical colonialism where in order to stay and keep us as slaves, they pump dollars into your country only to come in and take advantage as they has been doing in Africa. But the Africans has awakened from the sleep. And this is what the Belizean people at home and abroad need to do. Wake up from your long sleep.
Amen to that.
Look at what is happening in Africa and look at what is happening in Guatemala. As I said, I may not like the phrase Belize es de Guatemala, but I am proud of the citizen standing up for what democracy and holding their elected official what accountable. With that said, I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Greg, Leonard, you wanted to say something real quick?
No, I want to go to the next section that we need to start because
Well, you know,
you're
guys.
saying that it might be kind of short, but you know, by the
Yeah,
time we
okay.
open the
Let
topics,
me
you know, it
let me
might be
just
more
say this
time.
real quick. You know, my,
Yes,
my
sir.
thing is that, you know, where is priority? Where is the government priority? Where is the assignment that the people give to them? Are their mandate to the people, right? And I'll say it shortly. To me, their priority is about protocol, and protocol, right? That's their assignment and their priority right now. So, you know, I just want to do a little flashback. You know, my people in Emery Grove, you know, and Laguna Village area, you know, that tension is tightening. You know,
Mhm.
we might not, but it's tightening. You know, I was born 5 miles west of Emery Grove, right? So when I speak, I know they talk about, you know, anything from any other country and what I don't know about, right? I had never known about, you know, Mayan occupation in Emery Grove. Emery Grove was built by and for the East Indians.
Mhm.
That's what I know about, right? What happened lately, it's all about politics, right? Politics had divide and conquer our land, right? And that's what's happening down south, right? And seems that the government has no intention of fixing it, right? So I call on them what that they are waiting for something to just spill over, somebody to die, right? When you guys know better what to do, right? So that's one of my concern, and I want to call on them instead of talking about protocol and want to do deals. Why not try to solve the healthcare system in this country, right? The poverty situation, the inflation, the joblessness, right? The price gouging at the grocery stores on a daily and a weekly basis, right? The constant rising of the fuel, right? Lately kerosene went up, and who use kerosene? Mostly the poor people and in rural communities that I know about, right? They are the ones that use kerosene, right? So that went up 54 cents, right? There's no end in sight in terms of trying to fix that by the government, right? Like I said, their priority right now is about protocol, right? And who's defending and protecting our borders, right? You know, here none of them stand up and trying to say, well, this is what we are going to tell Guatemala, and this is what we're going to tell the OAS, and this is what we're going to tell the world about what Guatemala is doing to us. No, that's not their agenda, right? Now, Greg, you talk about the war in Ukraine. You know, our sympathy on Monday, my sympathy goes out to the thousands of people who had been, the innocent people and the innocent lives that has been lost due to the war, both by the Palestine and Israelis, right? I call on the media, and I personally I think they are one-sided, right? Because they're only showing like the Palestine and the Hamas are aggressing Israel, right? They are aggressing and they are killing out the Israeli. They are not showing the other side of the coin. On the one side of the coin, they are showing, right? And these people must have a reason why they did what they did. So why don't they find out what's the reason, right? But we're not going to hear that right now because the big and mighty US is behind Israel. So, you know, crime and violence in this country is on an all-time high. When this government came into power or they campaigned on, they had the answer for crime. We're still waiting for it, right? Like I says, the government priority is about protocol, right? Constitution reform and amnesty. Amnesty. Why they are on amnesty is because, again, they stand to profit. They stand to gain when they go to a next general election, because all these people that they are going to Belizeanize, right, regularize, they're going to get their passport in their hand, but with order, you got to vote for the People's United Party, right? UDP did the same thing when they were along 12, 1 o'clock the night. They do backtail shenanigans that are in immigration. And I'm going to get into that, right? Because they are no better than each other, right? Now the PM, I would like to say this, right? Inflation is at 6.7%. He said that, you know, he's seen by the end of the year it comes down to 3.5%. What is wrong with this guy, right? We call out about the lies, and then not to mention he said unemployment is at what Greg 3.5. That's what he said, right? You know, what is wrong with this guy, right? So, like I said, I'm going to be short and, you know, and to the point. Mr. Government, equip the police force. Not try to send them to Haiti. Not try to send them no part. Equip them with some equipment and knowledge. Equipment and knowledge. That's what you need to do, right? As a former police officer, that's what I would like you to do, right? Equip the judiciary, right? Equip them. Knowledge and equipment. That's what you need to give to the judiciary, right? And the forensic labs. That's why we know they win no, the government not they win no case. The police not they win no case. Equip the forensic labs, the lab in this country, right? And that will help solve a lot of crime in this country, right? So that's what I got to say. Priority, we need to take a 190 degrees backwards and start to tend to your people and nation and start to tend to business, right? Because that's all on the focus right now. Business and how to win an election, the next election. So we need to stop that, man. That is so played out, and I like to say
there's something happening in the background, no?
Yes, from Greg, maybe need to. Right.
Okay, yeah, too well.
So I like to call on the government to, you know, change from their priority right now, right? Because you guys taking Belize down a treacherous road, and the end result is not going to be nice for the poor and less fortunate in this country who cannot get away, who cannot leave this country. You heard the foreign minister already. You heard the police minister already out of their very own mouth, right? Mm-hmm. And that's just previews, Greg, and that is just previews of what to come if these guys get that pushed through with their agenda, right? You think it will be easy? No, it will be hard for the poor and less fortunate in this country, right? So wake up, Belize. And again, independent thinkers, this is your time now, right? Because the UDP and PUP is not changing in this country. They are no change. They are not both the same. They are nothing but the same, right? Same interest, same agenda, right? We've seen it happen. You think they have any? They have us trying those leopard changes skin? No. So I like to say, this is the time now for independent thinkers to step up. Those that do not have anything to gain from a PUP or UDP party or politician, this is the time now to step up. Your country needs you.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Leonard.
I just want to ask Greg if
you have 15 minutes there.
Give a little 2 minutes or a few minutes of speak to your candidates, you know, Greg.
Yes, again, as I was saying, I tip my hat off to you, Mr. Wade, and I'm calling on the people living out west in Santa Elena area, Bradley's Bank. to
Give Leonard
support
some
you,
chance
my
there.
virtual host. You know, we need new politicians and we need people who will stand up and fight for the people of Belize. You know, because sometimes when you look at these government, they do not want to see eye to eye with certain municipal elected mayor or townhouse candidates. So we need to get other people involved so that we can have democracy again in Belize
Again.
because it has been attacked and it will continue to be attacked if we, the people, does not stand up and defend democracy as the pastor in the service said. And hopefully on Friday we might get a chance for the people at home and abroad to hear what this pastor had said. Gentlemen, as I said before, time is changing, things are changing. The white man is being run out of Africa and other areas. So now he wants to find a new playing ground, which is Latin America and the Caribbean. What is happening in Haiti is not because of the Haitians, but because of outside interference by who? What is happening in Venezuela is because of outside interference. So it's a new era happening. And when I see the signing over this weekend with the indigenous people about US capital, and I see the ministers down there, I point blank can say that you know what? Their presence is there because of what is below the soil. You will see how much the community will get, and you will know what the government, in fact, you won't even know what the government will get. And I am saying I believe they must have already got money from this company for that signing. And you
But
know what? They might end up just like what happened in Africa. You know, go ahead.
Well, Leonard.
as of right now, the B&E project still has not provided any oil for Belize. And the little money that we get back out of that whole project is a small little sliver, part of which we have to share with the Mennonites and other people. In other words, for all that amount of resource that got taken out of our country and still being taken out, very little went into our treasury, when in fact it was our resources. More money went into Mr. Usher's foundation and his associates and other people because he was a member of the board on behalf of the Usher family and the Price family. More money went into Holy Redeemer Credit Union than went into the government treasury. Most Belizeans don't know that. So the Usher and the Price family were well compensated for the role that they played in Mr. Usher being on the board of that B&E organization before he passed away. And subsequent to that, like I said, his royalties, or not royal, I shouldn't call it royalties, but his part for having been facilitated and providing the facilitation for B&E to operate and actually raped for we country of resources and gave us back just a little sliver of a profit and took out more oil than they actually declared, as a matter of fact. That's another issue, completely different from the one I just brought up earlier. The issue of them taking out more oil than they declared is part of what most of these oil companies do to small countries and even big countries, because that was the problem in Brazil, that was the problem in Venezuela, That is the problem in Guyana. That is the problem in
Mexico.
it happened in Mexico too, which is why they nationalized their own gas company. And it happens all over the world. Wherever these gas companies and these major corporations go, they take advantage and they suborn certain people or officials in the country, and those people allow them to get away with all the things that they get away with.
And you know what is not said? The destruction they left behind.
Mhm.
Check YouTube. Check what happened in Colombia. What
Mhm.
happened in Argentina to the people living in the villages. The destruction that had left from them drilling for oil. You know? So I would like to say, and this is my belief, I believe that the redistricting will not be finished, and I believe they are not worried about it because of this constitution reform. There's no rush to do it because, as you and as most people, I hope they know, the constitution of Belize was to be changed in 18 months. In 18 months, we are supposed to have a new constitution. And I don't know if the people at home and abroad know that. But by me saying this, I would hope that they would read the People's Constitution Act. Most people do have social media and internet. Just look it up, Belize People Constitution Act, and read it for yourself. And you will see that the deadline is 18 months for a new constitution to come. And go ahead, Mr. Brackett.
On that same point about the authorization for the People's Constitution Commission, the document itself was legally authorized by the Governor General, but the document itself has a lot of shortcomings and in itself did not authorize the commission to take over the powers of governance of the country, or that the country government should cease to operate while they were doing their activities to try and get information for the government to pass laws, because the commission could not and cannot pass laws. They have no such authority. And it is only now that they are becoming aware of the fact that their commission is going to cease to exist as soon as they give that document to the Prime Minister, for the Prime Minister to do what he wants with it, and then turn it over to the cabinet, for the cabinet to do what they want with it, and then turn it over to the legislative body for them to agree whether or not they should even have a referendum, because they're the one that's going to authorize having the referendum, not the committee, not the Prime Minister, not cabinet. That power is vested in the legislator, at least as far as this particular document is concerned. So all those little tricks and things in the corners that these guys did with that particular piece of document, and then stipulating that that document was supposed to be so powerful to the point of overriding our present constitution, to the point where our Prime Minister was saying that he would have only followed the law if he didn't put that PCC in place, which was a joke to start with. But the joke was on the people that heard him say it and didn't understand what he was saying, and was left with the impression that, well, maybe his hands was tied, which is why he couldn't follow the law. But the man was barefaced enough to say he did not, he was not trying to abrogate his responsibilities and or violate the law, but he only did it. Now listen now, he's not trying to violate the law, but he only violated the law because the PCC is in motion. So that justifies him violating the law and not doing what was supposed to have been done under the constitution that we're currently being governed by. So, Belizeans, stop getting bamboozled, please. Pay attention to what's going on. Instead of wanting to spend all the time on Facebook and other social media, back and forth, they laugh and they giggle off all kind of craziness. Spend some time listening to the shows that we represent. Learn something that can serve some purpose to you and the rest of the country by virtue of knowledge acquisition that will allow you to be able to stop these idiots from bamboozling you. You can't do that if you don't acquire the knowledge. And you can't acquire the knowledge if you spend all the time and your resource prepare for your phone and your minutes for your telephone or your DSL or whatever is it that, or however you're getting your information. If you're only spending that time running around on Facebook, chit-chatting and giggling, and not spending any time trying to learn the things that will keep you safe, keep your country safe, and afford you the privilege to save the country before you lose it. That's all is being asked of you. We provide you the resource, knowledge, base. We provide the platform. We pay for Facebook thing where we have the thing, the same Facebook owner depend all the time. We pay for that. We pay for the YouTube connections and things to make you have it on YouTube as well. So no go on anything there. Spend 10-15 minutes or maybe half an hour or 1 hour or 2 hours or how many hours you want to spend, because we have 51 shows now, including this one and others that we did on other platforms, that you could get the knowledge base that you need instead of the play the fool and go on like Bell because you don't liar and you don't know what you need to know and you never ban knowing what you need to learn. That means that you refuse to spend the effort to learn what you need to know. Just like how you could spend your time on Facebook with all kind of leech chat and other things. Take one little bit at a time and go check out critical information that pertains to you and your country and your well-being. That's a plea from me. That's all that they ask enough to do. We to take care of the other part, what the government name to take care of, that the government's supposed to try to educate for we people and run their kind of programs to help the people to learn and know what they need to learn. Then should have been teaching in a school. It should have been a part of the curriculum. But they don't want to know. We want to know. The government don't want to know because they don't want to empower you to keep check on there and to know the rights and the powers that you have under the Constitution. So the more ignorant and the less you know, the better off they could carry on and shenanigans and bamboozle. Nearly every word come out of a prime minister's mouth amounts to a deception or an outright lie. He shouldn't be using the office of prime minister for free country to carry on like that. That's below the office. What is required of that office? And that includes many other ministers them too. They all damn well know what they're doing and what's wrong and what's right. They choose to do what they want because they just feel like the way they want. It's to their benefit and to hell with the rest of us. We need people like Mr. Wade and others to be given a chance. And only when we decide and make up the mind to give people like that a chance, then we might have a change. Otherwise, stop complaining and just keep on taking on the book. Good night. God bless. And thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for the privilege. Thank you, Gregory.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
thank you guys. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, as a part of my closing, I would like to say to the people in the diaspora and third party teaching fundamental rights about the Belize Constitution, please do not help the government to violate your constitutional right. The right to be able to take part in the national security of your country, the right to be a voter in a referendum, let your voices and let your pen stroke be known. Let me see you get up and speak with a passion about the government preventing you under the 7th Amendment from being able to come home to your country and take part in an election. With that, I turn it over to you, Mr. Chairman.
I want to thank you, Greg. So true on that. I share the same sentiment, and that's directed to our people out in the diaspora, or Belizean American. Stop being used, right? Past and present politician, they go out there and they use right? They use really well. So me, they cannot use me, right? But they go out there and use promise whatever they promise right? Think hard on that, because then remember, when you facilitate them, or have loved ones back home who will take the blunt of everything, right? So stop making them go out there and use right? Tell them that we want to be able, like what Greg said, participate in the electoral process. Not only go out there with hands out the beg, right? No, we don't beg for what we want to, right? We need to stop being so easy on these people, man, and let them have their way. On that note, I want to thank you guys. It's always a pleasure to be in your company, Greg and Leonard, and to bring truth to the nation, and to be the voice of the poor and less fortunate, because that's
Greg?
what we are. I want to
Greg,
thank you.
you want to read some of the
Yes.
comments?
And thanks to our viewers. And
Yes, go ahead.
our
No, you go ahead and
supporters.
read it. Oh,
I
you
can't see the comment.
Oh, I forgot. Okay. Let me see if I could put it up. Yeah.
It is important to acknowledge that despite the absence of a formal attorney-client relationship between the individual in question, the Prime Minister, the PMs in bracket period, there exists a collaborative association between them. This association is noteworthy as it pertains to the individual's racial identity, specifically being a black man appointed as Attorney General. This may be nothing more than a deception tactics aimed at misleading the black people within this country into believing that transparency exists. And can't see
thank you very
more.
much, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And my closing is that all I want to say is thanks for those people who are taking to hear our program. And I hope that we have conducted ourselves at least to the best of our ability without having to go overboard. Because some of these things are tragic. Some of these things that we're discussing are very, very difficult. But we're trying to stay within our bounds so that the program stays healthy. But sometimes it really it makes me mad. Some of these things really make me mad, and I want to holler or say some things that maybe it's not deserving of the airwaves and or other panelists and or shows, or the general public listening to our program. So for that, I want to say thanks to those who tune in. Thanks, Mr. Chairman, for carrying tonight's program. It was a nice program. And thanks, my cousin Greg Brackett.
Thank you, guys.
Mr. Chairman, just before we go, I'd like to remind the people at home and abroad to tune into the House meeting on Friday. It has to do with the money from Social Security, and there will be protesting in front of the House. Now, I'm saying this because I want to remind the Belizean people of what the Musa administration did to the AFC when our present Prime Minister was Deputy Prime Minister back then.
Come back to do the same
Now
thing
we hear them talking so highly about DFC when the past government was the one who put
Describe.
into it to bring it back to where it is.
Mhm.
So now here we go. They are after whose money? The
People's
people's
money.
money. With that, I would like to say good night to the people at home and abroad. Thank you for tuning in to the 51st edition of our Belizean Affairs. With that, we say good night.
Good night. God
Amen.
bless.
Good night. I hear around now. A couple minutes.
Yes.
Right.